Well, we're coming to you from the NASSCOM Future Forge Summit 2024, where today we're going to put the spotlight on deep tech startups in India that are pushing the boundaries of science and engineering to solve for some of the most pressing issues of our times, be that climate change, energy, transportation, and so on. Today, we have a panel of experts with us to deep dive into the kind of innovation these deep tech companies are bringing to the table, the kind of opportunities they see, and of course, the challenges and how they're overcoming them. On that note, gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us here on CNBC-TV18. Dr. Som, Vineet, and Amar, thank you for your time. Since we're talking about deep tech companies here, and there's a recent report, of course, that talks about how companies in this space have grown, but also with plenty challenges, whether that is, patient capital, whether that is customer reticence, or even finding the right talent. So as companies in the deep tech space, let me start by perhaps asking you, Dr. Sola, when you're building out a company in this area, you need patient capital. It takes a while for the R&D before you can bring your product out to market. What do you see as a company in this space as some of the biggest headwinds and some of the biggest tailwinds building a business in India?
The Indian ecosystem has been really great. It's very supportive for startups. However, there are just challenges in deep tech in general. Most deep tech companies are hardware. And there's a saying that hardware is hard for good reason. Your product development cycles are high. They take forever. Your R&D development costs are high. And that means that getting the product to a commercializable stage where you can start selling to customers takes time. But then your first product is not going to be perfect. And so you're going to take that customer feedback and then again another long development cycle. So if you're going to go into deep tech, be prepared for minimum 5 years of a hard slog.
And, Amar, as someone who's in the space tech space, you're building your drones and your aircraft vertically taking off using hydrogen cell fuels. Have you found the patient capital? Because after your seed funding, I believe a couple of years ago, you've had a bit of a runway. But was it hard raising that first sum of money?
Yeah, I think seed capital was definitely hard. That's mainly because the kind of uncertainties investors see in the whole segment, right? So, for example, we had to go through almost 60-70 rejections before we were able to really get to that first check, right? And sometimes we feel investors are not right for the kind of things we're doing, but sometimes there are some things we have to correct as well, as we do in the product. We have to keep course correcting, because we might go with long ambitions and long-term goals, but we also need to understand the priorities of people who are coming in as investors, and we also keep course correcting in terms of slightly change your strategy a little bit whenever you get the feedback from them, and not really changing your long-term vision for the company to make it more conducive for investment as well, and depending on which stage you are at. So that was our seed stage, and now that we're looking for Series A, we have a very different metric that we have to go and sell to our investors. So in seed, it was more like long-term vision and the team that is able to execute, and whether the industry is going to be the right industry at the right time. Right. And now when it comes to Series A for deep tech, the challenge here is if it is another segment like a SaaS or other segments where you can already prove your PMF at Series A stage and just get some few paying customers at this stage. But with deep tech, how do you articulate your story such that you are really relevant to the market when you come out there? So your PMF, even if it is not perfect, there is some PMF where some customers are willing to pay for you. So that's the biggest challenge for us now, rather than just showing that we can demonstrate and we can execute.
Well, speaking of PMF, EV is all the rage, right? So people are talking about batteries, that is the requirement. You're building the software for that. Did you also have to go through 60-70 rejections before you could get your first check, or was it a bit easier for you?
I think in that sense we were quite lucky, because we are a deep tech company, and we are a deep tech software company, and we are productizing the software. And of course, in deep tech, by definition, every startup, there is a business risk to the company. But when it comes to deep tech, there's also a technology risk. Now, we are working on a new technology, and we are building a product around this technology. We are building from India for the world. So in that sense, I can relate with the kind of hardware challenges that Dr. Sola was talking about. We face the same challenges. But luckily for us, I guess, as a company, we are very clear. Our primary focus is ensuring we deliver value to customers, We are open about what we are building, the risks associated with that, with the investors. And it was quite easy for us to, I would say, at least knock on wood, to raise the seed round about...
Because you had the right product market fit?
Yes, I would like to say that. But it's a journey, isn't it? So, but yes, we do have customers across the world. And our goal right now is to ensure we deliver value and grow within our existing customers.
Well, one of your first checks came in from the state government, from the state of Karnataka. As a startup, as a young startup that is building in what is a challenging industry, how important is the role of these government bodies? The government, of course, has come up with many funds and, funds to support startups in general. But what more do you think needs to be done, and how supportive has the ecosystem been?
I think the ecosystem has been good, but you have to remember that government moves slowly. Right now, we have a really strong system in India, ecosystem for supporting seed and early stage startups, especially when you get up to about Series A. Where we see challenges are in nurturing those deep tech startups beyond. And I think that will happen. It's just a time for that ecosystem to mature a bit so that we can catch up, so that the system catches up with the needs of those startups as they grow further.
Well, speaking of some of the policies, Vineet, IP, that is important for you to get, to have confidence to build the company that you're building. What do you make of the current ecosystem here in India?
I think there needs to be more awareness on the importance of IP. That's the sense I get from talking to fellow startup founders. Because for sure, especially when you're in deep tech, IP is super critical, right? One challenge is having, being incorporated in India. You first need to file your patents in India and then start filing them across the world. That increases costs. But I think the awareness is growing. There's a great ecosystem around generating your own IP. The government has started making it easier for us to file patents. It's heading in the right direction.
Well, and for the business that you're in, regulatory headwinds, do you see that as a big risk, or do you think the system has been enabling?
It had been a strong headwind, I would say, a year ago. But if you see today, just a few weeks ago, DGC has released a draft policy for vertiports and a policy for VTOL aircraft, and drone policies there. And they're telling they'll come up with a BV laws, which is called Beyond Visual Line of Sight policy, which is a big thing in drone industry, right, by end of this year. So this is such a strong positive thing that is happening now that we are seeing, as aerospace engineer for all my life, very, very excited to see that a policy is coming from India, a written policy. When we read about it, it talks about technicalities of how you have to design and certify an aircraft, which was something that was never seen before. So some policy that came from India for certifying in India. So which is a strong motivation for the government even to play their role in this next stage of aerospace transformation, and we see that's very positive.
Well, is that going to help you expedite your commercialization, which is now slated for 2026 for your drones? And what about your aircraft?
No, that's definitely. So 26 drone, the first product, actually, the way we chose that is purely based on commercialization and the certification that is available in India. So only in India, an aircraft less than 500 kgs and autonomous can be certified as a drone. Elsewhere in the world, it has to be less than 125 or even less than that. So what that gives us is much
more flexibility,
less riskier attempt to get to market much faster, prove all our reliability out there, and eventually build larger scale aircraft coming out of the country, right? So that's one thing. And on the aircraft side, we also saw the VTOL policy that came out. Even in VTOL policy, to be more specific, globally, they have categorized any aircraft which is less than 3.5 tons as a VTOL, and in India, they have extended that to 5.8 tons. So we're seeing all these extensions because they're really encouraging to extend these and extend the whole scope of VTOLs and bring players to design things which much larger use cases and get them certified.
So the timeline for Blue Jay remains mid-2026 is when you hope to
I would say end of 26 for the first aircraft, but for the passenger carrying aircraft, we don't see that happening in this decade. It could be end of this decade or early next decade.
Tell us more about DAV Earth in terms of the number of clients that you have now, what kind of revenues you're generating, what kind of pace of growth are you seeing in business?
So we're seeing growth both within India, but we're especially seeing growth internationally. And that's been very interesting. Countries like Thailand, where they have, in some parts of the country, the same issues that we face in Delhi. Crop burning during certain times of the year, causing higher pollutions in populated area. In other cities, we see very well-developed cities, like what I mentioned in Brazil, but they have huge ports right next to them. And the pollution blows from that ports right into the city. And this is becoming a problem, so that every week, they tell us, in the local newspapers, you'll read problems about air pollution coming into the city, causing health hazards, causing reduced tourism footfalls, and so forth. So we're seeing a lot of awareness, and that's translated into very robust uptake for us. The issue is that we deal in B2B enterprise sailing, so the sales cycles are a bit long. But what we're happy to see now is that we're getting repeat orders from customers, upselling, and that's a sign that our initial success has been well taken.
All right, and Vineet, for Urja, how many clients do you have now for you, and what are adjacent areas you're looking to foray into apart from software for batteries?
Yeah, so we of course started with some Indian customers, but I'm happy to say that today we have customers across the world. Okay. When I say across, I mean East Asia, Europe, US, and of course India. Yeah. And with us as well, I think there are several challenges. To me, batteries and new energy storages is the new gold rush.
All right. Just to end, if I were to ask all of you in terms of what are you most excited about in the deep tech space, and what are you most worried about as of 2024, perhaps starting with you?
Deep tech, if done rightly, fundamentally has a chance to create the largest impact. And if we are able to achieve that as a country, we really can compete with the globe, and we can close the gap, whatever gap has been formed in the last many decades, right, compared to other parts of the world, and reduce dependency. And what is more worrying is if not done in the right way, we'll still lose the battle. We'll still be behind, just like how we are behind in Mother.
All right, that's more ideological, but Vineet, what about you?
What I'm worried about?
What you're most excited about, and what you're most worried about when it comes to the deep tech space in India?
I'm excited about the opportunity and the potential. What I see in India today, which I did not see maybe even 10 years back, is the openness to work with new technology and to work with startups with something which is untested. Sure. Large enterprises are open today to invest in startups when it comes to using their tools as well. There are of course a lot of geopolitical risks that we have today, and there's so much uncertainty.
And the pace of change of technology is also a risk. Well, you, Dr. Sola, have the last word.
Exactly that. What I'm so excited about is the rapid pace of technology advancement. We're able to do things now that we couldn't do when we started 6 years ago. More robust technology, better applications, a better service to our customers. But what I'm most worried about is this rapid pace of advancement in technology, because now we have to keep up, and our customers are going to ask us, so what AI systems do you have in your hardware? And we have to make sure that our software-enabled hardware is now AI-enabled hardware. And these are things that we do as we go along, but it means that we're always on our toes.
Yeah, and actually that excites me, by the way, the pace of technology.
Yes.
Well, some are excited and some are worried by the pace of this technological change. But on that note, all of you, thank you very much for speaking to us here. It's been a pleasure chatting with all of you. Thank you.